I think I learned acting really not from any school, but from the industry and the business. I went on every set, I watched actors. There were so many good, and I also learned on film.
George Hamilton dated a president's daughter and made $100,000 per movie in the 1960s. But by the 1990s, his tanning salons were shut down by the FDA, his cologne line was destroyed by counterfeiters, and the IRS came after him for over $400,000. He lost almost everything. Then, at 66, he tried ballroom dancing on TV. At 76, he sold fried chicken in a white suit. Now at 86, he's doing something nobody expected, and it's working better than anything he tried in the last 40 years. George Hamilton was born on August 12, 1939, in Memphis, Tennessee. His mother, Anne Lucille Stevens, known as Teenie, came from a respected family in Blytheville, Arkansas. Her father was the town doctor, and she was raised in Southern comfort and charm. His father, Spike Hamilton, led a popular touring orchestra and played in fancy places like the Biltmore Hotel in LA. But their marriage didn't last. Spike had an affair with a singer in his band, and the divorce came in 1944 when George was only 5. After that, George, his half-brother William, and younger brother David stayed with their mother in Blytheville, living with their grandparents. Those years in Arkansas felt safe and lovely. George would later say it was the most stable part of his childhood. He lived in Blytheville until about 1947. His grandfather, Dr. Carlos Crawford Stevens, was well respected, and both of George's grandfathers were doctors. That inspired young George to think about becoming a doctor too. He would flip through medical books and imagine himself saving lives. His mother had been educated in St. Louis and even went to finishing school in New York. But the stock market crash of 1929 forced her to come back to Blytheville with her first son. Then tragedy hit. Both grandparents died suddenly in 1947, and the family was left shaken. Teenie had to support 3 boys on her own. With no clear path forward, she flipped a coin to decide whether to move to New York or Hollywood. The coin said Hollywood, but things in Hollywood didn't work out as hoped. In 1950, she married again, and they moved to the East Coast. George bounced between fancy schools. One of them was Hackley School in New York, a private institution filled with wealthy kids. Then another marriage happened, and by his senior year, they were living in Palm Beach, Florida, where he went to Palm Beach High School. That city changed how George saw the world. His mother always dreamed of being a movie star and thought marriage might open that door. They moved around constantly: Memphis, Blytheville, Hollywood, New York, Boston, Beverly Hills, Palm Beach. George had to keep adjusting. It taught him how to fit in fast, win people over, and stand out when it mattered. That skill would later become his secret weapon. At Palm Beach High, everything started to shift. He played a lead role in Brigadoon and won Best Actor in Florida in a 1957 competition run by the University of Florida. Even though he didn't graduate that year, something clicked. His mother, who had always pushed him toward performance, saw an opening. George was already teaching ballroom dancing to help his mom's social ambitions, and he learned how to move through high society. He'd show up at glamorous clubs like the Stork Club or El Morocco, places where both his parents had connections. His father even coached him on how to be charming. That mix of performance and polish was setting him up for something bigger. His trademark tan, the thing everyone remembers, wasn't the result of some accident. It started during his teen years in Florida. George had always been the class clown, skinny and awkward. But one spring break, he laid out on the beach and came back with a dark tan. At the next party, 3 girls hit on him. He knew instantly: never lose the tan. From then on, it became his identity. Later, Actor Glenn Ford told him on a Western set that getting a tan could save time in makeup. George took that to heart. He even made a reflector device to tan more efficiently. Over the years, he stayed dedicated to his bronzed look, even after doctors removed precancerous spots in 2011. He switched to self-tanners, but never let go of the image. Then came the bold move. In 1957, George was 18. He dropped out of Hackley School, packed a duffel bag, and hitchhiked across the country with just $100. He spent 3 months sleeping on friends' couches in gritty parts of Hollywood, living on 25-cent hamburgers and chasing auditions. His big break came at a beach party in Malibu. A talent scout from MGM saw him playing volleyball. She noticed the tan, the jawline, the charisma. 2 days later, he had a screen test. He didn't even own a suit. He borrowed one and lied about having acting experience. But the executives loved him. He got his first contract, $150 a week. His first film came in 1958, No Time for Flowers. It was a small role in a forgettable movie, but one critic spotted his potential and wrote about his screen presence. George earned $500 for the job and immediately bought a beat-up 1952 Chevy convertible. It broke down all the time, but he drove it proudly. That car got him noticed on Sunset Boulevard and led to more auditions. But Hollywood came with drama. In 1959, he had an affair with 35-year-old actress Mary Murphy while filming Crime and Punishment USA. She was still married. Paparazzi caught them leaving her house at 3 a.m., and tabloids went wild. Her husband threatened to sue. George's agent had to pay $15,000 to make the photos disappear. MGM considered dropping him, but his agent convinced them that the scandal could actually boost his fame. Ticket sales jumped 40%. Then, in 1960, came his real breakout role, All the Fine Young Cannibals. He played a jazz musician opposite Natalie Wood. The part paid $25,000 and required him to fake playing the trumpet. He studied Chet Baker videos and nailed the performance. Critics compared him to James Dean. Fan mail flooded MGM. A teenage fan club called Hamilton's Honeys hit 12,000 members. The film made over $3 million in the U.S. That same year, MGM locked him into a 7-year deal, $1,000 a week. But buried deep in the contract was an unusual requirement. He had to stay tan all year. The studio even put sun lamps in his dressing room. George went all in. He tanned on weekends, spent $300 a month on oils, and earned the nickname the Bronze Playboy. Gossip columnists warned about skin cancer, and doctors found precancerous spots by the time he was 25. But George didn't stop. That tan had become his brand. He went on to play a flashy evangelist in Angel Baby, a role that pushed boundaries in 1961 and marked Burt Reynolds' film debut. George played it with intensity, though the film itself got mixed reviews. Around the same time, rumors swirled about an affair with Elizabeth Taylor, but those were wrong. They didn't date until 1986. In 1963, he starred in The Victors, a gritty W-twatwood film with a large international cast. He held his own among big names like George Peppard and Albert Finney. Some people mistakenly thought George took over as Zorro on TV in 1962, but that's not true. The original Zorro show had already ended in 1959. George's Zorro moment came in 1981, when he starred in Zorro, the Gay Blade. He played both Zorro and his flamboyant twin brother, a performance so bold it earned him a Golden Globe nomination. He also took on deeper roles. In Act 1, he portrayed playwright Moss Hart, showing his range beyond the pretty boy roles. In 1964, he played country legend Hank Williams in Your Cheatin' Heart. He performed all the songs himself, capturing the pain and genius of the man. By the late 60s, he was earning $100,000 per film. Hollywood saw him not just as a handsome face, but as someone who could carry serious weight. In 1966, George Hamilton's charm wasn't just lighting up Hollywood. It was now echoing through the White House. His relationship with Linda Bird Johnson, the daughter of President Lyndon B. Johnson, became the talk of Washington. They were seen together at the Sugar Bowl, Mardi Gras, even the Oscars. He spent Easter weekend at the LBJ Ranch and joined the White House wedding of Linda's sister, Lucy. But President Johnson wasn't impressed. Suspicious of Hamilton's reputation, he ordered a quiet but serious background check. He roped in Supreme Court Justice Abe Fortas and FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, who opened an extensive file on Hamilton, investigating everything from draft dodging to gossip about his brother's sexuality. A federal judge later described the report as overflowing with rumors and third-hand hearsay. Nothing damaging came of it, but the stress of constant Secret Service surveillance and political pressure eventually ended the relationship. Hamilton later said the scrutiny was intense and noted that in the Johnson White House, gay was about the worst thing you could be called. A year later, in 1967, Hamilton tried to bounce back with Jack of Diamonds, a heist film starring himself and featuring Zsa Zsa Gabor as one of several celebrities whose jewels his character steals. The budget was $1.3 million, and the film leaned heavily on glamour, with cameos from Carol Baker and Lily Palmer. Riding the wave of his high-profile dating life, Hamilton was pulling in about $100,000 per movie. But the reviews were brutal. The New York Times compared it to a cheap version of Top Copy, and Roger Ebert couldn't recommend it to anyone but hardcore fans. It flopped, and Hamilton was forced to reckon with the shrinking demand for polished, pretty boy leading men in a Hollywood now turning toward the gritty realism of actors like Dustin Hoffman and Gene Hackman. In 1968, he took on The Power, a science fiction thriller about a group of scientists working on psychokinesis. Hamilton played Jim Tanner, the man tasked with uncovering which one of them had developed dangerous, godlike mental powers. The film featured surreal visuals, mind control scenes, and a tense race against time. Produced by George Powell, known for The Time Machine, and directed by Byron Haskin in what would be his final film, it was a bold choice. But again, critics and audiences shrugged. By the late 60s, Hamilton was quietly slipping into irrelevance as the studio system crumbled, and the new Hollywood made little room for his old-school style. But in 1971, Hamilton made an unexpected move. He bought the rights to tell the story of Yvel Knievel after visiting the injured daredevil in a San Francisco hospital. He paid $25,000 flat and hired a then-unknown John Milius to rewrite the original script, which Hamilton hated so much he reportedly beat it with an oar and threw it in a pool. They filmed in Butte, Montana, and captured Knievel's 129-foot jump over 19 cars at Ontario Motor Speedway. Hamilton not only starred, but also co-produced the film, showing he wasn't afraid to bet on himself. Reviews were mixed, but the film gave his career a short-lived lift. Still, by the time the decade ended, he was back to floundering in forgettable projects. Things took a dark turn during the filming of The Man Who Loved Cat Dancing in 1973. Hamilton had a supporting role as Willard Crocker, but the focus shifted when Sarah Miles's assistant and secret lover, David Whiting, was found dead in her motel room. The night before, Whiting had attacked Miles after she returned late from Burt Reynolds' birthday party, leaving her bloodied and shaken. She ran to Reynolds' room for help. Whiting's body was later found with pills, bottles, and bruises, but the coroner ruled it a suicide. His mother didn't accept that. She forced Miles and Reynolds to testify and hired a pharmacologist who argued the drugs weren't necessarily fatal. The blood on Whiting's clothes and pillowcases was never fully explained. The scandal became global news and devastated Miles's marriage to playwright Robert Bolt. For Hamilton, the incident was just another reminder that he was now orbiting chaos rather than commanding the spotlight. In 1969, hoping for a reset, Hamilton landed a lead role in The Survivors, a soap opera based on Harold Robbins's novel, starring opposite Lana Turner. It premiered on ABC in late September and had the backing of Universal Television. But despite the star power and marketing push, it got crushed in ratings by CBS shows like Mayberry RFD and The Doris Day Show. Just 15 episodes aired before it was pulled in January 1970. ABC tried reruns that summer, but the damage was done. Hamilton had banked on it for a comeback, but the cancellation shoved him further into television limbo. He gave it another shot with Paris 7000, but that show was canceled after only 10 episodes. Desperation was setting in. After Evel Knievel gave him a moment of momentum, Hamilton was still struggling to reclaim his position in Hollywood. The Milius-written biopic had potential, but even with Knievel's popularity, it didn't launch Hamilton back into A-list territory. Milius later called him a great guy and a master con man, someone who'd be remembered as a third-rate actor, but who might have been a first-rate showman. Unfortunately, charisma wasn't enough anymore. In 1975, he starred in The Dead Don't Die, a low-budget NBC zombie film set in the 1930s and written by Psycho author Robert Bloch. He played a sailor investigating his brother's wrongful execution, stumbling into a story involving Haitian zombies. The production was cheap, the effects were corny, and Hamilton's permatan stood out awkwardly in a character meant to be locked away at sea. Critics tore it apart. As his acting offers dried up, Hamilton started appearing regularly on game shows like Hollywood Squares, a steady gig that symbolized just how far he had fallen from his 1960s high. That same year, he took a small role in Once Is Not Enough, a star-studded adaptation of Jacqueline Suzanne's novel. He played David Milford in a film headlined by Kirk Douglas and Brenda Vaccaro. It was a far cry from the days when Hamilton was getting $100,000 a film to headline his own projects. By now, the roles were just paychecks, nothing more. Insiders whispered that Hamilton's spending habits from his heyday hadn't slowed down, even though the offers had. The film was a job, not a step forward. Then came Sextet in 1978, one of the strangest entries in his career. Hamilton played a spy named Vance Norton opposite 85-year-old Mae West in her final film. The cast was packed with names: Ringo Starr, Alice Cooper, Keith Moon. But the movie was a disaster. West reportedly had her lines fed to her through microphones hidden in her wigs, which interfered with police radios. Hamilton got a few laughs for his tan, again, but no one left the theater impressed. The movie bombed, earning just $50,000 despite a budget that ranged between $4 and $8 million. It was panned mercilessly, and for Hamilton, it was proof that Hollywood had moved on. When George Hamilton took over the $100,000 Name That Tune in 1984, he wasn't just reading song titles, he was making a strategic move. The game show wave was back, and his tan, charm, and movie star flair were suddenly assets in a format that needed both sparkle and familiarity. It ran for 2 seasons, not a huge hit, but not a flop either. At a time when many actors his age were struggling to stay visible, Hamilton used this as a lifeline. He wasn't chasing Oscar roles anymore. He was chasing longevity. And with each piano note guessed correctly by contestants, he carved out a space on syndicated TV screens where his name still mattered. Around the same time, Dynasty came calling. Not as Danny Clayton, like some claimed, but as Joel Abrigor, a perfect fit for the show's silk-gloved drama. He appeared alongside giants like Joan Collins and Linda Evans at the peak of their stardom. The series was pulling in over 20 million viewers per episode. For Hamilton, this wasn't just a guest spot. It was prime-time relevance. He stepped into the Carrington chaos with smooth lines and perfect posture, slotting in like he belonged there all along. It was classic 80s television strategy. Take a known face from film, drop him into the hottest show on air, and give everyone a reason to keep watching. By 1989, Hamilton had found a new business muse, his tan. His bronzed look wasn't just iconic, it was his brand. So he turned it into a product line. A 12-item sun care range launched at Neiman Marcus, each bottle priced at $40. He promised buyers they could glow like George, safely. At first, it worked. Shoppers were curious. Upscale stores showed interest, and magazine spreads showed off his perfect skin. But within 3 years, everything unraveled. The products triggered skin irritation for several buyers. Lawsuits began piling up. By 1992, after selling just $2 million worth of product, the brand collapsed under legal fees and refunds. Hamilton's golden glow had become a legal liability, and the beauty industry taught him its toughest lessons fast. Still, in 1990, he doubled down on tanning. He opened 5 salons across California under the brand Hamilton's Glow, betting that his face could sell premium sessions at $25 apiece, $10 more than average. At first, it looked like a master stroke. The beds were European imports, celebrities loved the vibe, and appointments were backed up for weeks. But then, skin lesions appeared. Clients complained. The media pounced. An FDA investigation found UV exposure levels that exceeded safety guidelines. The scandal exploded. Hamilton tried to control the damage, hiring doctors, issuing statements, updating equipment. It was too late. Within a year, all locations were closed. He lost $500,000. More than that, he lost credibility in the very image he had built his career around. In 1995, he pivoted again, this time to fragrance. Eternal Tan was a cologne for men, bottled in bronze with gold trims. It wasn't just a scent, it was a persona in a bottle. Hamilton used late-night infomercials to sell it, striding across California beaches, preaching confidence. 50,000 bottles were sold that first year in America alone. But across the ocean, chaos was brewing. European counterfeiters flooded the market with fakes, some selling for just $15. Hamilton didn't see a cent from those sales. Worse, the fakes were cheaply made and damaged the brand's image. Lawsuits and legal chases across France, Spain, and Italy cost him $300,000. He couldn't beat the counterfeiters. By 1997, Eternal Tan vanished from shelves, taking his cologne dreams with it. But Hamilton wasn't done yet. In 1997, he placed his biggest bet in Vegas. He poured $1.5 million into the Hamilton Cigar Lounge at New York Casino. It had everything: leather chairs, mahogany walls, chandeliers, and a selection of custom cigars, each named after a moment in his career. For a while, it worked. High rollers came in, celebrities stopped by. Hamilton even made personal appearances, shaking hands and posing for photos. But it didn't last. The competition was too strong, with MGM properties offering similar experiences at lower prices. Tastes were changing. Young gamblers didn't care about cigars or old Hollywood charm. Foot traffic dropped. By 2000, the lease was terminated early. The $1.5 million? Gone. The lounge? Forgotten. All that remained were glossy promo shots and leftover cigars. His final swing came in 1999 with real estate. He bought a distressed condo in Palm Beach for $800,000 and invested $200,000 in renovations. Marble floors, luxury finishes, oceanfront balconies. Within 8 months, he flipped it for $1.2 million, netting a clean $200,000 in profit. For a moment, it looked like the comeback he needed. But the IRS noticed. They flagged inconsistencies in his tax returns, questionable deductions, fuzzy numbers. The audit expanded beyond the condo into his past ventures. Now facing potential penalties of over $400,000, Hamilton had no choice. He liquidated heirlooms, artwork, antique furniture, even family jewelry. Sotheby's and Christie's sold them off, piece by painful piece. The money raised covered the debts. He avoided prosecution, but it left a scar. Not on his skin this time, but on the legacy he had fought so long to preserve. George Hamilton stepped onto the ballroom stage of Dancing with the Stars in early 2006, already 66 years old, and nowhere near the kind of dancer you'd expect to go far. And yet, week after week, he held his own with Edyta Śliwinska beside him. It wasn't his footwork that earned him applause, it was that cheeky grin, the sharp tucks, and the sense that he knew exactly what he was doing. Charming the room. His rumba and quick-step brought in 23 points at best. Not enough to win, but enough to entertain. For 6 weeks, he tangoed, he paso doble'd, and when it was time to leave, placing 5th, it didn't feel like a loss. It felt like a victory for every guy who thought he was too old to try something new. 10 years later, he was back in front of the camera, this time not dancing, but frying. In 2016, KFC picked Hamilton to play the extra crispy Colonel Sanders. It wasn't a gimmick, it was genius. Golden brown chicken, golden brown tan. America got the joke immediately. George sailed on a yacht called the KFC, wearing white suits and selling chicken like it was part of high fashion. His version of the Colonel didn't just work, it sold. And in 2018, he even popped up on General Hospital in the same crispy suit, taking the character full circle, from fast food to soap opera. That tan had finally paid off in full. A few years earlier, in 2014, the Boomer List documentary celebrated 19 iconic figures born between 1946 and 1964. George wasn't one of them. Born in 1939, he was too old to qualify. Some rumors floated around about him being involved or talking plastic surgery in that documentary. But it wasn't true. He wasn't in it. The spotlight wasn't on him that time, and maybe that's okay. Now, rewind to 1972. George was meeting Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis Presley's manager, when Alana Collins walked in just to grab a few things before flying out. Then came a joke that turned real. "Why don't you two get married today?" Parker said. So they did, on Elvis's private jet, in his private room, with a tiny dog playing maid of honor. There was roulette involved, and George lost $15,000 at the casino before saying, "I do." Their son Ashley came along in 1974. The marriage didn't last. They divorced in 1975. George later admitted he didn't understand her wild spirit or her ADHD. She wanted parties. He wanted peace. But nothing in George's life was ever simple. In the early 1980s, his name got dragged into the $12 million Marcos scandal. Money tied to Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos, the Philippines' infamous dictator couple, moved through Hamilton's accounts. $5.5 million supposedly came for a MacArthur film that never happened. Another $6 million was funneled via Hamilton's Beverly Hills home. The trail led investigators to believe that the funds never really left the Marcoses' grip. George wasn't charged, but the headlines didn't help. He testified that he returned the funds, claimed innocence, but the scandal stuck for a while like a bad tan. And then came Ashley. His son didn't just inherit fame, he inherited battles. Bulimia, anorexia, heroin addiction, rehab after rehab. At school, they cruelly called him Fatly. His weight swung like a pendulum from 180 to 250 pounds. He used drugs to control his body and numb his mind, but slowly, painfully, he climbed back. By 2013, Ashley had 6 years sober. In 2015, 8. Iron Man 3 gave him a second shot. Robert Downey Jr. helped make that happen. Ashley became a coach for other addicts, working in rehabs day and night. On the reality show Stewart's and Hamilton's, George cried openly about Ashley's journey, pride soaking through every word. In 2011, rumors exploded that George had skin cancer. Tabloids ran wild. The truth? He had actinic keratosis, pre-cancer spots, removed from his ear and forehead. Nothing terminal, nothing dramatic. But that didn't stop the National Enquirer from claiming he was bleeding. Rushed to Lenox Hill Hospital, hospitalized for days. His publicist shut it down hard. No ambulance, no chemo, just a routine precaution for a man who'd spent a lifetime under the sun. Then came 2024. At 85, George moved back to Palm Beach, where he'd gone to high school decades earlier. Old friends joked he should run for mayor. He joked right back, "I'd do it if I didn't have to actually do anything." With Trump's constant visits to Mar-a-Lago causing noise, helicopters, roadblocks, George stepped back into the scene, cool as ever. He didn't run for office, but people noticed. George was Palm Beach's favorite son again. By 2025, George Hamilton was 86. His net worth sat comfortably at $20 million, a fortune built on contracts, brand deals, and always knowing when to reinvent. In the 1960s, he earned $100,000 per film, $1,700 to $8,500 a week during MGM's golden years. But he also knew how to bounce back when the industry forgot him. Selling tanning creams, running cigar bars, hosting shows, doing whatever it took. And still, he shows up at Hollywood events, fans dazzled by how little he's changed. Even comics couldn't resist. Gary Trudeau's Doonesbury featured Zonker Harris, a character obsessed with Hamilton's tan. Zonker won fictional tanning contests, dreamed of the George Hamilton Cocoa Butter Open, and treated George like a bronzed deity. Decades later, that same sun-kissed image helped KFC go viral with Hamilton at the helm. No actor fit the bill better. In 2015, George, at 75, told an interviewer he was still looking for love. He spoke of a 7-year relationship with a German doctor that ended because she wanted kids. He already had 2 sons. One was 14, the other 40. He admitted he grew up broke, not poor, because poor, he said, is a mindset. Broke is just weather. He survived lean years by becoming what he called a free-floating franchise.